Hello, my name is Maya Smith. Bon appetit, the importance of food. To start off, I'm going to show a quick video that demonstrates the one of the ways that food's important.
Feel good. Eating nourishing food, making nourishing food, feeding others, celebrating with others. If that's not love, then what is? Of course, it's always a good time to talk about the power of love. From the instant we're born, the infant's experience of food is directly intertwined with being held, touched, hearing mom's soothing voice, feeling her skin, her warmth, and her love. To the as yet developed nervous system of an infant, all of these experiences are encoded in the nervous system as one event. The infant brain does not distinguish between isolated and specific sensations, meaning the infant doesn't say to itself, oh yes, this is the sound of my mother's voice, and this is the taste of the milk on my tongue, and this is the feeling of love, and this is the warmth of her skin. Again, it's all experienced as one and the same. Food is love. Love is food. Touch is food. Touch is love. And on and on. So to the adult mind, it makes perfect sense that we make the association that food is love. And as we grow older, our nervous system becomes more complex. We have a fascinating way of recreating and evolving this experience of food as love. For many of us, we've been given as children rewards whenever we've done something good or that our parents approve of. Oftentimes, that reward is food. Perhaps your grandparents, your grandmother demonstrated her love by cooking or feeding you, or perhaps it was some other relative or many of them. And maybe even the first time you went out on a date, you eat at a restaurant. It might have even been a romantic setting. Courtship and romance so often occur at the dinner table. Candles, low lighting, music, love is in the air, love is in the food. If you've ever given food to someone who's hungry and homeless, you likely had the experience of feeling a lot of love coming your way. We simply cannot escape the beautiful reality that food is love and love is food. Of course, it can become
That video demonstrated the importance of food and how much it really can affect us starting from the beginning of our lives. My thesis is that although there are many different important parts of culture, food is one of the most important that defines and is demonstrated in everyday life. There are three main things that I will be focusing on: the psychology behind food, the background of a person and how it affects what foods they like, and the culture a person is in and how it affects what foods they enjoy. But first, I need to start off with the groundwork of taste. Taste is received from proteins on the tongue called taste buds. These taste buds have five different senses: sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and unami, a Japanese word meaning a taste of fat. These five senses combine when you put a food on your tongue and help your brain determine what taste to receive. An important thing about this is that the fewer of a certain kind of taste bud you have, the more you crave that food. For instance, if you have few salty taste buds, then you crave the salty foods a lot more to make up for that. This is important in helping to shape everybody's different sense of taste and why nobody has the exact same taste buds as everyone else. Next, I will talk about the psychology of food. So, the main reason that we consume food is in order to get the proper nutrients and vitamins from it to live a healthy life and to consume calories in order to have the energy to do our daily activities and to stay alive. What the body needs and what the brain craves are two very different things. The psychology of food and what we eat is one of the most important determining factors in the food that a person will consume. First off, I'm going to start with a fun little brain teaser. So, these are two different circles. The white one and this white circle is larger than this one. But you have to guess which black circle is larger. Actually, they're both the same size. This leads into the psychology of the brain and how it affects how much food you eat. Because this looks like it's less, your brain thinks you need to eat more food, even if your stomach is telling you that you've had enough. The brain is very powerful in determining what foods you eat and how much you eat of them. Another thing that the brain can do is to confuse the food for the plate. If you eat a food that's the same color as the plate you're eating off of, you will probably eat more of it. Another thing that the brain can do is determine how much you metabolize of a certain food. Now, everybody's metabolism is different, but there are certain factors that help to metabolize more or less of a food. This is called there is this thing called the placebo effect in medicine, and it's where you give some patients the real drug and some patients a fake version of the drug to see if the drug actually works or if the people just think it's working and it makes it actually happen. This can be demonstrated in food by how much of the food you actually metabolize and doesn't just turn into fat. This can be seen in certain examples of when people eat a food and feel negatively and don't metabolize the food as much, or if they eat it positively and they metabolize a lot more of it. An example of this would be if you're eating birthday cake at your friend's party and you're surrounded by people you love and you're happy and you metabolize a lot of the cake and it doesn't just sit in your stomach and turn into fat. But if you sit at home alone and feel really guilty and sad about eating the cake, then you won't metabolize as much of it, and therefore you won't get as much nutrition from it, and your body won't dissolve it as quickly. These are just a few examples of how psychology interacts with food and how it changes and shapes what foods people eat. The next thing I'll be talking about is the culture of food and how it affects the culture of a person and how it affects what foods they eat. Culture is a non genetic set of rules and set of ideas and ways of life be that can only be taught and art you can't be born with. They usually last from generation to generation and are one of the most impactful parts of a person's life. Culture can have many different facets, including as seen here, language, religion, child rearing, food, folk art, celebration, and jokes. But every person's culture is different, and it mainly depends on where they're from. There was a New York Times photographer who did a book called A World The World's Food, and it shows different cultures week of food and what they eat in a week. Here are four examples of these cultures. Now, they are not similar at all, and that's because of the differences in culture. And there are many things that influence why they're so different. So, first of all, there's the US. Our food diet has a lot to do with the importance of food and the aspect of time. In America, things tend to be a lot more rushed, and we have a lot going on, and therefore there is not as much importance placed on food. And it's, as seen in the picture, it's a lot of pre made or prepackaged and processed foods. Next, there's a picture of Chad, a country in Africa. The main thing that affects the foods that they consume in this culture is the economy. Because they're such a poor country, their diet mainly consists of rice and beans. Though it's not as diverse, they still take pleasure in food and try to make it special. Next is Japan. One thing that clearly overwhelms what they eat is their geography and their natural resources. The main thing that separates Japan is the fact that it's an island and is surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. Therefore, they mainly eat fish or other sea derived things because that's what's plentiful to them and that's what's mainly available and how they get a lot of their calories. The next picture is Ecuador, a South American country. This country is also has low economic standards and therefore their foods are not as diverse. But one thing that makes this picture different is the smiles on the family's face. Food is one of the things that brings the culture together in Ecuador, and it keeps the family tight knit and strong, even though they're not as wealthy as other countries. The importance of food in Ecuador is the fact that everybody in the family comes together to eat, and therefore there's a high importance placed on it in comparison to other countries. Next, I will talk about the background of food, or background of a person and how it affects the food they eat. As seen in the video, a person first consumes food from their mother, and an important bond is placed between their mother and the food that a person will eat. The foods that a mother eats while pregnant actually impacts what a person will end up eating when they're outside of the womb and adults. Another thing that helps to impact what foods a person eat from their background is seeing somebody else that they know and are close to eating a certain food. This makes a person a lot more likely to also eat that food and having a higher possibility of enjoying it because they saw somebody relatively close to them eating it as well. Another thing that background helps influence with food is the fact that food often has a high correlation to family and it can bring you back home even when you're far away. This is a powerful phenomenon because even though you can't have your mother's dishes when you're thousands of miles away from her, you can still recreate them or still find a restaurant that cooks something similar and feel that bond that brings you back to home and brings you back to the people you love. Even though some might say that you can never truly recreate a food outside of where it was originally made because the ingredients aren't available and the exact resources aren't the same, I disagree. I feel like food is a lot more than just a list of ingredients. It's a feeling, it's something that brings you home, it's the thought, it's the people. It's not just what kind of water you have and the mineral content or what kind of peppers are available or anything like that. Food is a lot more powerful than the ingredients you put into it. It's the feeling that comes out of the food is what makes it powerful. Going off of this, for my community outreach, I did I did a cultural awareness potluck. The main purpose of this was to invite people from all different kinds of cultures and backgrounds and bring their foods, their homemade recipes, and connect over them. This was a very powerful and rewarding experience for me and the people who came to it as well. As you can see from the pictures, there was all kinds of foods and all kinds of people there, and we got to connect over something that is easily overlooked. Over the simple concept of food, I met and learned the names of many people that I never would have talked to and became friends with them. Additionally, we shared our stories about our past and our cultures and what the foods that we brought meant to us. This helped bring a common thread to all of our stories: family and love. Food is symbolic of love when words are inadequate. Dr. Alan Wolfcroft. This quote helps to show that to everybody around, food is one of the things that can truly bring you together, even if there's not that much else to bring people together. Even if there seems that there's nothing in you have nothing in common with another person, simply bringing food or starting a conversation about food can lead to many different routes and connect many different people to have to find out that they have similar roots, similar backgrounds, and similar stories. This can help break down walls and hopefully bring humans together. Everybody is human, everybody needs food, and everybody needs love. Thank you.